Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Double Header Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and happy Thursday. It is November 20th. We are 1 week away from Thanksgiving. The time of recording right now is 10 a.m. PST, and we got a lot of baseball talk today. Not much soccer talk, if any, but we got a lot to talk about baseball-wise. Some moves went down. We're going to talk about all of those. We're going to update with what's happened in terms of my predictions. We're going to talk about the new MLB deal that came out, TV deal that came out officially yesterday for 2026 and foreseeable future. We got all, of course, like I said, hot stove stuff. We're going to talk about Tarik Skubal. We're going to talk about Josh Naylor, the Orioles trade with the Angels, and we're also going to talk about the qualifying offers that were accepted. So, to begin, let's talk about the TV deal because this is probably the biggest news that has come out in the past week. So, we're going to break it down first. We'll explain my thinking after that. So, the basic breakdown of it is ESPN loses Sunday Night Baseball to NBC and Peacock. They also lose I believe they have the wild card round. They also lose the wild card round, which is also going to go to NBC and Peacock. So NBC and Peacock get the wild card round, Sunday Night Baseball. They will also get the morning games that Roku had, and those will be on Peacock. And only other piece of news around NBC and Peacock is that baseball would be bumped on Sunday nights if it is conflicting with basketball or football. So it would be the third string there. Otherwise, ESPN gets MLB TV. That's the biggest piece of this. That is all out-of-market games across the entire country. And then they also get in-market games for San Diego, Seattle, Cleveland, Minnesota, Arizona, Colorado. Let's see. T-Mobile customers still expected to get that out-of-market package that they got when MLB TV was run by MLB. Other pieces, Netflix gets some games. Netflix is going to get the primetime opening day game. I believe that is between the Yankees and someone. I can't remember exactly who it is, but it's between the Yankees are in that game. They also get the Field of Dreams game. That'll have the Phillies in it this year, and they will also get the Home Run Derby, which is really exciting. We've seen the Home Run Derby kind of be tough to watch over the past few years, especially with ESPN. I don't know if that means that Netflix gets to change the layout and tournament style maybe of the Home Run Derby, and if they want to change the format. If they want to change the format, I'm not sure that's something they can do. But I do think that having them and having someone new be able to run the Home Run Derby and be able to switch up the camera work and figure out sort of what the best way is to be able to see all of it in the formats and right now, because it is hard, I think, to film all that stuff. But now that opportunity is Netflix's. ESPN lost it, and it'll be interesting to see. Netflix does put on some kind of cool productions when they get it, and I think that is a positive thing. On ESPN, getting some new stuff, I also think that could be a positive thing. I think it'll be interesting to see sort of how they do it and if they increase prices. And ESPN has struggled over the past decade-ish, especially as it's gotten more and more recent, especially with baseball stuff. But I think if that's ESPN Plus now that has MLB TV, and if you're paying for ESPN Plus, you also get MLB TV, I do think that in of itself is a positive thing. The ESPN app is obviously the greatest thing, but if you see improvement there, that also could be a good thing. What we don't know is the pricing in 2027 and beyond. 2026 sounds like it should be about the same, if not the exact same. We don't know how it's going to work necessarily for in-market, and that might change dependent on the team. So for the Mariners, it might be different than the Padres. And allegedly the Mariners, at least according to Seattle Times, will have their own, you'll be able to pay just for the in-market Seattle Mariners games instead of having to pay for the entirety of MLB TV plus your in-market games. But, if you're a baseball fan, I do think that having those in-market games on MLB TV is a positive thing because you can then pay for all the baseball games, and now it's all in one place instead of all over the place. And in the past, at least, MLB TV has given you the ability to watch 2, 3, 4 games at once on split screen. at least on laptop. And that in of itself is a really cool thing, because then it's like, I want to watch the Padres game, I want to watch the Yankees game, the Red Sox game, the Orioles game, all at the same time, and then if you want to watch just your team, you can watch just your team. And generally it's been ahead of, I've had Fubo for the past few years, and it's been ahead of Fubo in terms of like lagging. So it is closer to real time, which again, that's a positive thing in of itself. You're going to get less spoiled due to Twitter notifications or texts or anything like that. So that also another positive of it. NBC and Peacock, if you want to talk about those things, Sunday Night Baseball has been struggling. I don't know who's going to be the play-by-play or color commentator on those games, and it might switch up a little bit. But if they have good talent on those games and they can put together a solid production, it might be a lot of fun. We also know that when those not Roku games now, but the Peacock games in the mornings on Sundays, we do know that now after those games, there's going to be an afternoon wraparound show. If you watch MLB Network and MLB Tonight, you can kind of think about it similarly to that, where it's going to be a Peacock version of that, which I think another show like that in the baseball media landscape is a very positive thing, and it's a very cool thing, because the more you can sort of watch multiple baseball games and get perspective from multiple teams, the better. It's a good thing for the game. You think about the positives of NFL Red Zone and what that does for the game, and it's not going to be necessarily the exact same thing, but it's a similar kind of concept to that. And that in itself is pretty cool. You get to see the best matchups. You get to see the Judges versus Tarik Skubals, the Judge versus Crochets, the Cal Raleigh versus Otani's, the Mike Trouts versus whoever. You know what I'm saying? You get to see the top starting pitchers face off against the top hitters in the league. And you get to see, if there's multiple of those games happening at the same time, and usually there are, you get to see those all at once. And you get to be able to pay attention to multiple games at the same time. And again, that in itself, a positive thing, a good thing for the game, a good thing for the media landscape of the game. It's good for the growth of the game, especially if it's something that is accessible. A lot of people do have Peacock already, so as long as it's not something you have to pay extra for, people with Peacock might be able to watch that, and that's a positive thing in of itself as well. So there are positives to this TV deal, and I think that it does, in some senses, improve the TV landscape. That said, having even more, paid streaming services for your viewing pleasure of the game is not a positive thing. Now I have to pay for cable, I have to pay for ESPN Plus or MLB TV, I have to pay for Netflix, I have to pay for Peacock, and you also have to be able to have Fox, and if your local team is not on ESPN, you have to pay for that. So it's a lot of mixing and mingling. When it used to be, it was cable, and you got the games that were on. Now you're getting more nationally televised games, partially due to this. In the games that are on NBC during the summer, that might be really cool, because NBC is, it's a core channel in every really TV media landscape, and I'm trying to think what the word is like your local TV package, and that in of itself is a positive thing. People who are older than I am talk about, it used to be you could watch sports for free almost with like just an antenna, and it was, we didn't have to pay for six, seven streaming services, let alone 2 or 3. It was, if we had to pay, it was one streaming service, and often you didn't even have to pay, and then it was more accessible to more people. And you think about the playoffs, right? When they're on Fox versus FS1, it's more accessible for people to watch it on Fox. You're going to get more viewers. So I think having it on NBC instead of ESPN, that also naturally is going to allow for some more viewers. But like I said, I do think having so many different pieces in it is not a positive thing for the game. It makes it difficult to know, well, where am I going to go to watch this game? It's not, I'm going to go to my cable and the game is on one of these X amount of channels. Now it's, I'm going to go to my Fire Stick, my Apple TV, and it's on X amount of apps, and that takes a lot more time to have to go through all those different apps and figure out where it is. I think that in of itself is a negative thing. So there are positives and negatives to this new TV deal. And in some ways it might grow the game, in some ways it might hurt the game. But you can understand it from all the different perspectives. Everyone wants in on baseball with the way it's been growing. And the better you can do with it, maybe the more games you're going to be able to get. And if your viewership is good and you get good viewership and your broadcasts are good and people like it, you might be able to feel better about spending a little bit more money and getting more games. And maybe if you're Netflix or you're NBC, getting some of those playoff games. But we'll all see how it sort of shakes out once the season starts, once we start seeing these games start to happen. Moving on, let's talk about the hot stove. Let's start with my Mariners first. Josh Naylor to the Seattle Mariners. 5 years, $92.5 million overall, 18.5 average annual pay. That said, it is backloaded. He's going to make $10 million only in 2025. It leaves the door open for Seattle to make a lot more moves, whether that's Jorge Polanco they want to bring back, whether that's Eugenio Suarez you want to bring back. I don't think that's very likely. Whether that's someone you want to bring in. Maybe it's a big gun. I don't know if that means you still really have the funds for Kyle Tucker. But is it Cody Bellinger? Is it someone else that's shocking? Maybe you're going for a pitcher and you're trading a Luis Castillo. Is it Kazuma Okamoto? Is it Munetaka Murakami, who also don't think he's a great fit in Seattle? But getting Naylor signed before Thanksgiving, let alone the end of November, gives the Mariners a lot of flexibility in terms of what they want to do for the rest of this offseason. It gives them a lot of time to work with. And him only making $10 million in 2025, as if he's an ARB player getting increasingly more expensive over time, also gives them more payroll flexibility to work with in the already more time now that they have. They can turn their attentions from Naylor's first priority, we have to go sign Josh Naylor, to what's next? Can we get this thing done next? Or do we have to start somewhere else and then we can look back at this thing and, keep tabs on this thing instead of putting all our fish in one boat like they might have done with Naylor? You don't ever truly fully do that, but it makes it easier when the thing that really needed to happen is out of the way. Your biggest hole in first base is filled. If you want to hear my full breakdown on the Josh Naylor signing for Seattle, go listen to my Mariners podcast, the On the Diamond Into the Deep podcast. Episode 97 is the Naylor podcast. If you want to go listen to that, I'll link that at the end of this video on YouTube. But it's a signing that makes sense for the Mariners. Signing that was kind of needed for the Mariners. He changed the entire look of the lineup. You saw Cal Raleigh mention that he's one of his favorite teammates, if not his favorite, most important teammate. And then you saw Naylor in his press conference gush about the city of Seattle, the fan base, his teammates, the front office, the organization as a whole. And then reports about him gushing over the prospects and telling Justin Hollander, Jerry DiPoto, the Mariners GM and president of baseball ops, why he liked each of those prospects and what they were good at. And you talk about this guy being there for 53, I believe, games in 2025. Now he's there for 162 games plus all of spring training, where you have all those young guys working now alongside him. You have the Colt Emersons, the Michael Arroyos, the Felnin Celestins, the Johnny Farmellos, all working alongside Josh Naylor. And you've already seen Harry Ford, Cole Young be around him a lot at the end of last season. Ben Williamson's another guy that might be around him more, or that will be around him more. He's going to be able to teach those guys a lot of what it takes. And this is a guy that is a very smart baseball player in general. And if he can reflect that on more of the Seattle Mariners players and organization as a whole, that's a positive thing for the organization. That's going to make every player around him better. He's a guy that makes everyone around him better because of his knowledge of the game, because of his passion for the game, his love of the game. but also just because he is a damn good player. And that's a force in your lineup that you don't want to have to deal with if you're an opposing pitcher. You don't want to have to face Josh Naylor after already facing Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez. And he mentioned that. And this is a guy that, if he gets on, can also go steal bases somehow, some way, because he's just a damn smart, good player. He does what it takes to win. He's the perfect fit for the Mariners. He seems like he is the perfect guy for Seattle. He seems like, in many ways, he is the epitome of what a Seattle Mariner is. And you got to feel for Mariners fans. Now, I am a Mariners fan, but it's a really fun, positive thing for them. And that doesn't often happen during off seasons. Moving on, let's talk about the trade between the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore Orioles acquiring another outfielder and giving away starting pitching. They acquire Taylor Ward, a rental corner outfielder, for starting pitcher Grayson Rodriguez. I understand. Let's start with this trade from the Angels' perspective. And I really like this trade for the Angels. Grayson Rodriguez is a big prospect who actually has looked good when he's been healthy. The problem is he hasn't been able to stay healthy. That said, Angels are not great at keeping guys healthy, especially guys that struggle to stay healthy. Anthony Rendon is the first name that comes to mind. But if they can keep this guy healthy, that's a ton of value you got for a singular year of Taylor Ward. That's a power arm, potentially, that you're getting for a single year of, yes, he's one of your best hitters, if not your best hitter right now. But are the Angels going to be competitive in 2026? Let me ask you that question. My answer is no. So why would you keep a guy? Now, you could have traded him at the deadline, but why would you keep a guy for opening day 2026 when you could get value for him right now? And getting that value feels great. If you're an Angels fan, you should be overjoyed, I think, with that trade. A singular year of Taylor Ward for Grayson Rodriguez. The Angels actually doing smart baseball operations for the first time, it seems like. That's not something they do very often. I like this a lot for them. On the Baltimore side, I don't really know what the hell they're doing. I understand wanting to add another bat to your lineup. And you did need help in your lineup, don't get me wrong. And maybe the outfield is the area you saw as a place to improve. But first and foremost, the Orioles are going to succeed in terms of their lineup if they're young guys that they have developed. All those prospects that were ranked highly in their system in baseball can be the guys that they need to be. That's Gunnar Henderson, Colton Cowser, Heston Kiersad, Adley Rutschman. And to now a newer extent, it's Samuel Basayo, among other guys. This is still a good farm system. Jackson Holliday's another guy that somehow I didn't mention. You need those guys to produce in order for you to be successful, and you need to supplement them, not with other bats, in my opinion, but with pitching. You need help in that rotation. And the bullpen needs help as well, don't get me wrong. But the rotation is the first spot you need help. And is losing Grayson Rodriguez going to help that? I don't think so. I don't know how it could. You're adding payroll with Taylor Ward over Grayson Rodriguez, which means less to be able to spend on free agent starting pitching. Are the Baltimore Orioles going to go trade for Tarik Skubal, who we're going to talk about next? No. Are they going to be able to go trade for someone else? Potentially. But you're losing one of your starting pitching options for a guy that you kind of already have in Tyler O'Neill. It doesn't make a ton of sense for me from the Baltimore Orioles perspective unless you're going to go somehow flip Taylor Ward. But I don't see that really happening either. And don't get me wrong, I'm acting like Taylor Ward's not a good player. He is a good player. And he's going to do well for Baltimore, probably. But there are bigger holes for that team than a corner outfielder. You have multiple of those. You have Tyler O'Neill. You have Heston Kjerstad. You have Colton Cowser. Do you need another one? Is Taylor Ward going to DH for you? You have holes in your infield. And more importantly, like I've said a multitude of times now, you have holes in your starting rotation. And without a starting rotation, you are not going to be able to be successful in baseball in the age of 2025, 2026. The best teams in baseball have a good starting rotation. The Los Angeles Dodgers, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Seattle Mariners. Those are the 4 teams that were left come the championship series. They all have good rotations. That's what the Orioles need to be more successful. And they have the opportunity to go win that division. And I think they probably will have a bounce back year. But not if they can't go acquire some pitching. They need that help now. And in a big way. And it's not just one guy. You need 2 guys. So if I'm going to grade that for Baltimore, I give it like a C plus B minus. If I'm grading that for the Angels, B plus A minus easy. Easy. I don't care this is a guy that gets hurt a whole lot. I like this a lot for the Los Angeles Angels. A lot. Moving on, let's talk about Tarik Skubal. Here's what we're going to do with this. I'm going to talk about whether I think, first and foremost, let's talk about should Tarik Skubal be traded. Then we'll look at some trades done by The Athletic. And then we'll talk about whether I think he will. So, should the Detroit Tigers trade Tarik Skubal in the offseason? There are multiple pieces to this. First and foremost, this is your ace. This is your guy. This is your star in many ways. Right? What does trading that guy show your clubhouse and show your fan base? Not positive things. Second, what can you get back for Tarik Skubal? Are you getting multiple top 100 prospects for a singular year of Tarik Skubal? Are you getting any? And third, are you going to be able to re-sign and extend Tarik Skubal beyond the 2026 season? And I think that is the singular most important point. If the Detroit Tigers know they're not going to be able to keep Tarik Skubal beyond 2026, he should be traded. And he should be traded in the offseason. This is one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in baseball. And yes, it's only 1 year of the guy, so his trades are not going to be these crazy large packages like we saw for, say, Juan Soto a few years ago. But 1 year of maybe the best pitcher in baseball for a team is incredibly valuable, especially a team that thinks they could go re-sign Tarik Skubal. And the Detroit Tigers, if you can get back pieces that you can have for 5, 6, 7, let alone 4 years, that's a positive, good piece. You could add pieces for now and the future. You can bulk up that farm system and establish yourself better. You have to weigh whether, though, you can get more value from a singular year of Tarik Skubal, or however many years of the other guys. And in my opinion, the prospects and guys you could get in return for Tarik Skubal will be valuable to you. And that will improve your team. And it's the type of move that teams that stay in contention for a long period of time make. Think the Houston Astros. Think the Dodgers spend money. But think about teams that don't spend a lot of money. Think about the Tampa Bay Rays. They trade guys when they have value to be able to get pieces in return so that they can continue to be competitive for multiple years in the future. That said, how good are the Detroit Tigers without Tarik Skubal? Are they a playoff team? Will they win the AL Central? To me, they won't win the AL Central. They could. It'll be competitive. But mostly just because that division's not that great. Can the Detroit Tigers make the postseason without Tarik Skubal? If you get another pitcher that can slot in your rotation and be just a 3 in the rotation, I think yeah. Especially if you get pieces back that can play for your team in 2026. But if you look at 2027, 2028, that's when you start to see the Tarik Skubal trade start to make a difference. Now, what could this trade look like? According to Jim Bowden of The Athletic, these trades are kind of crazy. We're going to start with the trade from the Dodgers. They send right-handed pitcher Emmett Sheehan, left-handed pitcher Justin Robleski. I don't know how to say that. Left-handed pitcher Jackson Ferris, and the capper outfielder Zaire Hope. Hope is the capper. That's a great prospect. It's a top 100 prospect, absolutely. Center fielder with good bat-to-ball skills, good speed, good power, can play center field well. He was in the Matt Shaw trade from the Dodgers to the Cubs. And again, that's a really fun, good piece if you can get that for 1 year at Tarik Skubal. Can you get that for 1 year at Tarik Skubal? Maybe. I think this package is the most realistic of all of them. But I still don't even know. That said, the Dodgers, a team that could very likely extend Skubal, would probably make this trade. So I'm okay with that package. Boston Red Sox. Left-hand pitcher Connolly Early. Christian Campbell, the second baseman and utility. Outfielder Johnston Garcia. And right-hand pitcher Christian Fuchs. Campbell, Garcia, those are the highlights of this package. And that's a decent amount. Campbell struggled at the major league level after his first month or two in the majors in 2025. But he is young. He can play second base for you. And he was a big prospect. He's the minor league player of the year 2 years ago. And sometimes it takes guys a season to figure it out. Garcia, the other highlight of this package, is a very good outfield prospect. I don't see the Red Sox trading him, though. And part of that stems from the reports that they are wanting to trade one of Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu. And if they trade one of those guys, I think Garcia is a likely guy to fill in at some point in 2026. Will he be ready on opening day? Maybe not. But he would make sense to. And I think if you're the Tigers, you would take this package. I don't know if the Red Sox, again, would do this package. Can they extend him? Can you have Tarik Skubal and Garrett Crochet both at the top of your rotation? Because that would be freaking ridiculous. Can you imagine that in a wild card series? Game 1, Tarik Skubal. Game 2, Garrett Crochet. I mean, what are you supposed to do? That's how I don't really see Boston trading for him. The New York Mets, this one's ridiculous. Right-handed pitcher Jonah Tong. Right-handed pitcher Brandon Sproat. Infielder Jet Williams. Infielder Ronnie Mauricio. No freaking way would the Tigers be able to get Tong and Sproat, let alone one of them, in a trade for Tarik Skubal. You want to know my thoughts on this? Hail to the no. 1 year of Tarik Skubal and you're giving away 2 good pitching prospects? No, not happening. And on to my team, Seattle Mariners. Bryce Miller, right-handed pitcher Ryan Sloan, catcher Harry Ford, right-handed pitcher Teddy McGraw, and right-handed pitcher Michael Morales. I don't even know what to say about this. This one might be even worse. An established guy in the majors in Bryce Miller, one of the best prep arm prospects right now in baseball, in Ryan Sloan, and a major league ready catcher that's a top 100 prospect in Harry Ford. Are we serious? Am I being trolled? I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, Bryce Miller, why? Okay, Ryan Sloan, what? I'm not trading one of those guys, let alone both of them. Harry Ford, Teddy McGraw, Michael Morales, I think that's a package that Seattle would do. And they'd be willing to throw in even maybe another piece that's not a top 100 guy to get that done. Would the Detroit Tigers want to do that for a year of Tarik Skubal? Maybe. But I think the Mariners would be willing to do that, and I think that's something that they should explore and probably do if they can. But it shouldn't cost anyone in your rotation right now, and it shouldn't really cost you Ryan Sloan, at all. I think the 3 guys, there's no way it should cost are Cade Anderson, Ryan Sloan, and Cole Emerson. There's no way one of those guys would be going to the Detroit Tigers in a trade for a singular year of Tarik Skubal, especially because why would the Mariners do that when there is a very low possibility they'd be able to extend Tarik Skubal because of their payroll limitations? So yeah, just no. Moving on, or I guess we ought to talk about it. Do I think Tarik Skubal will be traded? I don't. I don't think that the value that the Tigers would get from a team would make it worth it for them to piss off their fan base, their clubhouse, and all that. That said, I think the smart baseball move would be to trade him, and in some ways I think they should. I just don't think that they end up trading him, and I don't think they will. They should, but they won't. Now we can move on. Qualifying offers accepted by Gleyber Torres, Shota Imanaga, Trent Grisham, Brandon Woodruff. I think pretty much all of these were pretty much unexpected. That said, if you want to go back to my free agent predictions from last week, Gleyber Torres, where did I have him going? Oh, what's that? Detroit. Check that off the box. Josh Naylor, I had that. Seattle. Check that off the box. Shota Imanaga, where did I have him going? The Chicago Cubs. Check that off the box. 3 for 3 off the rip. I had Trent Grisham going to the Phillies, though, so 3 for 4. But that's crazy. 75% so far. Now it'll get ruined, but I like 3 for 4. I'm hitting 750 so far. Do like that. On these guys, though, the most interesting one probably is Trent Grisham, just because I don't think anyone expected that. I don't think the Yankees expected that, and that's kind of screwed up reportedly their offseason a little bit, because $22 million for Trent Grisham is a little bit of money, especially when he just had his career year. Can he repeat that? I wouldn't feel good about that, and that might take them out of the running for Tucker or Bellinger, or they're going to have to trade someone with a contract, but I don't know who that would be. I don't know why they would do that. But I think the Yankees are in a really bad spot. I think just adding Trent Grisham for $22 million adds to the bad spot they're in. Yeah, they're in a sticky situation. I don't know how they're going to get out of it. I kind of think that they're not going to be the greatest team in 2026. I could get proven wrong. They do have some fun guys in that rotation, but you have aging guys all over that team. You haven't had really any prospects come in and truly bring in that youthful energy that you need. Obviously, you have Aaron Judge, and without Aaron Judge, this team would be nothing. And without Aaron Judge, it would be the type of team where I'm like, yeah, you got to tear that shit down. Like it's time for you to tear that down for a few years, struggle for 2-3 years, and then get yourself right back to the top. But I don't think the Yankees really can do that ever. I don't think their fan base can really understand that. But I think that's the smart baseball operations type of thing to do. And if it weren't for Judge, I think we would start to see them do that. That is all for today's episode, though. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been a solo double episode of the Doubleheader podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Till next time, Mahal here. Peace.